Welcome, listeners, to Real Wisdom with NK, the Midwest Film Festival's podcast exploring the journeys, insights, and lessons from filmmakers and creatives across the Midwest. Our focus today is the role of intimacy coordinating in filmmaking and really getting us present to why the presence of an intimacy coordinator actually creates more space for play and creativity. Do you wish there was a financial institution who understood your creative journey and catered to your unique needs as an artist? Well, look no further. Actors Federal Credit Union was created for the creative community, offering real support, reliable products and services, and banking with empathy. With lower loan rates, higher deposit rates, less fees, and nationwide ATM access, Actors FCU has your back every step of your journey. They've been serving the creative community for over 60 years and are here for you. Visit www.actorsfcu.com to learn more. Sitting down in this particular class with Aimy Tien and Dr. Nikki Blacksmith was one for the books. Aimy comes in with that space of understanding the how to be an intimacy coordinator, while Dr. Nikki was getting us present to why we need those things, why we need those supports, why we need those resources. And when we do that, how we are a collective of creators who center people first, which also allows us to get the best, most truthful performance out of our actors. We have two guests, one of which is an intimacy coordinator named Aimy Tien, who's an award-winning multidisciplinary artist, writer, and IDC certified intimacy coordinator. She's worked with major networks like HBO and Apple TV+, as well as Showtime. She's also the founder of Tin Heart Productions. They develop narrative projects centered on race, healing, and sexuality. Aimy also facilitates global conversations on storytelling, queer advocacy, and creating cultures of care. I'm also excited to bring in an organizational psychologist who focuses on behavioral science, Dr. Nikki Blacksmith, to join this fruitful conversation. Dr. Nikki Blacksmith is the co-founder and CEO of Submeta Behavior Science and an adjunct faculty member at the Illinois Institute of Technology. She's been an organizational psychologist for over 20 years, working with Fortune 500 companies, startups, and investors. I'm incredibly excited about today's focus, the role of intimacy coordinators in filmmaking. This is a hot topic in Hollywood right now, and it's reached beyond Hollywood at this point, and people are asking what intimacy coordinating is, people thinking it's the policing of the fun, and I'm here to demystify a lot of those things, and I'm really excited because I'm not here alone. Today, I have the incredible Dr. Nikki with us, and she is a behavioral psychologist. You're going to understand why that's super important in just a little bit. And I have the incredible Aimy with me, who is an intimacy coordinator, who's going to talk to us about all the reasons why it's important to have an intimacy coordinator on your set. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
How are you feeling?
Happy to be here.
I'm so happy y'all are here. This is a conversation that I've been wanting to have. As an actor and an intimacy coordinator, for me, when I even learned what an intimacy coordinator was, one, I was like, that's super cool. Two, I think I would be really good at that. And three, like, duh, why haven't we always had them? And to some degree, there have been people doing this work without the name, right? Or maybe the credit of it. So I want to talk a little bit about first, Aimy, how you got into intimacy coordinating and kind of your perspective on why it's important and why you decided to do this work.
Sure. So I come from both an acting and a producing background, and very similarly, there have been scenes where I'm like, as an adult now and as a more seasoned actor, sometimes I'll think about like, wow, it would have been really nice to have that for myself. And often when you're a producer, previously this role was often taken by the folks in vanities because they are so close to our actors. Or it was taken by stunt coordinators for scenes of sexual violence. As this grew in the Me Too movement, I was starting to hear about it. I heard about it first in theater with my theater friends. And, you know, I have training in sexual violence and domestic violence intervention, trauma intervention. I do DEI work outside of my work as a creative. And it felt like a really good fit. And honestly, another reason I got into it is, I don't know about you and Kay, but sometimes when I watch a scene, I'm like, wow, there were no people of color in that room. There was not nary a black or brown eye on that camera. And in that scene, you can see racial dynamics play out in simulated sex. And that always bothered me. And then there's, simulated queer sex that just looks, I'm like, I don't know what you're doing there. You're mostly just like rolling around in that bed. And that is, I don't know what you're simulating, but it sure isn't queer sex. So seeing those gaps, I really wanted to come in, which is not to say that there were plenty of people who were starting to do that work before me, but I wanted to be another voice in that room and to get involved in this work. And it's been really fulfilling since I have been.
Yes, I completely agree. Yes, and on top of seeing scenes where I'm like, there was nobody of color in this space. Also, there was no female leading this space. On one of my intimacy coordinating jobs, I gave, and it was like when I was really working too, it's like to work with the dynamics of the director. And like, I just saw something where I was like, she would be so bored right now. She would be so bored right now. I gave a suggestion. I was like, in this particular take, because she already has finished, and it's not somebody she wants to really be having sex with, I think it would be an interesting choice to her just be like, and we all know the stare. We're like, oh my God, hurry up and finish, stare. And I promise you, and it was all men in the room, they're like, their minds were literally blown. They're like, that's a thing? And I was like, you don't know that that's a thing. I'm so sorry for your partners. So just the lack of awareness around that would be an option got me really clear on why it was so important to do this work.
But it's like those touches, right? Like a director has so much on their mind. They are thinking about so many things. Wardrobe is thinking about so many things. Makeup is thinking about so many things. Now we have in this role someone who is in their lane to just focus on this stuff. Some directors might not need us to do choreo. Some directors do. And there's this opportunity to really give creative support as well as like the safe and like consent forward support that we can offer too.
That, and I think just even being in conversation. And the other thing that I really saw, it was on another job that I was doing where the director didn't want to, wanted to ask for certain things but didn't know how. Was like, well, I'm just a good Catholic boy. And I'm like, good and fine. I was like, in your brain, I was like, this is a script that you want to be truthful about, right? You want to tell this story in the most truthful, powerful way possible. How do you see it playing out? Share that with me. And then in them sharing that with me, I'm like, okay, so here's 3 ways that I think we can accomplish this. Let's give these 3 different options that give different layers to the actor and then see if any of those work. Because then it gives them different levels of coverage, different, like some of them are a little more, like one was like a little more hip showing, one was no hip showing at all. Because I saw the first conversation play out and it was just like, oh, whatever you want to do. Where I'm like, we really can be in a space of advocating for the creativity in a way that feels aligned and consensual for everybody. And you get the shot that you want, the actor feels empowered, and it just makes for a really beautiful space of creation. And I think so often people think of this like, they say like we're the fun police and we're coming in to monitor that they're not doing anything bad. And this was the reason why, Nikki, I wanted to bring you into this conversation. I had the privilege of sitting with you on another panel for something completely different, but also so much of the same in what it is that you do as a behavioral psychologist. And what I really want people to get present to is the power of creating spaces where there is consent, a space where there is clarity, because clarity is kind, and where we really just have an order of operations of how things can go in every single area so that it really creates space for play. And what I loved about this is that you don't work in the film space, but you sure the heck know about organizational psychology. You sure do know about behavioral psychology, right? And how people act and what it requires for people to show up their most powerfully and fully expressed. So I'd love to hear your take. I know you've done a little research about intimacy coordinating and the part that it plays, and you saw so many through lines with the work that you do. So tell me a little bit about what you saw.
Oh my gosh, so many things. I think the first thing I saw was just, I'm thinking intimacy coordinator, the way they describe it, it's working with the actors. But really, the job is you have to create a whole culture on the whole set, I'm assuming, if you want to do it effectively.
Yes.
Because you can't just have some people know what the words are. And creating a culture is hard work. And it's, something that is like not even like startup founders don't even think about these things. And they kind of just organically grow if you don't intentionally do it. So that was kind of the first thing that came to mind. It's like, there's a lot of work to be done around, what are the norms here? Like, how is it, how are the behaviors like that are okay and that aren't? If one person does something that's not aligned with it, people will follow.
Right.
The role of an intimacy coordinator has a huge component of emotional labor. So emotional labor is when your job is to actually like manage and regulate emotions. And on top of that, they're managing and regulating other people's emotions. And that is exhausting. Those kind of jobs that have emotional labor, there's always that like risk of burnout because you're acting, you have to like think about everything you're doing and every moment and what they're feeling. And that's not like how we go through life, so it's work. And I think it's invisible and a lot of people don't see that. I mean, you can tell me you've been in that role, both of you.
Yeah, I think for me, every job I have involves holding space for other folks. Every single thing I do, whether it's producing or when I'm teaching or facilitating. And particularly as an intimacy coordinator, I'm trying to facilitate this consent-forward space, this space where we have certain values and where we believe that boundaries are gifts. I want folks to know that, like, especially in film, it is such a team sport, right?
Yes.
Like, we have so many folks on the team. We're all, like, gears in this larger wheel, and we get to play pretend for a living. And that's really fun. But particularly with simulated sex or intimate scenes, there is a risk of harm there, just like there's a risk of harm for a stunt. So how is it that we support people through these moments, and how are we just kinder to one another in a day where we spend, 10 to 16 to 18 hours together in a day? Sometimes it can be hard to be kind, but personally, I think it's harder to just be a jerk. Like, why? Why can't we just be kind to our colleagues?
That's probably because you're built for that role.
Right. Yes.
So that I'm wondering who's hiring these people because they have to think about that. Like, are you capable of, handling this level of emotional labor and, holding that space? Like you said, that's a skill.
It is such a skill.
Yes.
And what I want to point out right now, Nikki, that you're just uncovering for everybody that's listening, either way, the work has to get done. So who has it been falling on? And as Aimy already said, usually falls on vanities because they're the one who are spending that time with the actors. So they're the ones holding space for them. They're the ones who are really the first to know if something has occurred that is beyond their boundaries. They're the ones who find out. They're the ones holding that emotional labor for the rest of for the cast and sometimes the crew, right? So if you are going to be doing the work and you're gifted to do the work, because as you said, in every single thing that you do, you're usually holding space in some way because it's a gift. And it's the same with me. Everything that I'm doing, it's like, I always say, there are people like, you do so many things. I was like, it's 5 fingers on the same hand.
Yes.
And it's like, and that is always the palm holding. And that is my superpower. So I'm happy to do the work and run me my money. Run me my money. And so this was why your perspective was so important to me because looking at it from the outside, you can clearly see the thing. And sometimes when you're in it or you've been indoctrinated into doing it a certain way or been taught that if you don't do it this way, then you won't make it, people don't see that there's another way of being. And there's a different culture that can be created. And to your point, it has to be intentional.
Yeah. And it has to embody psychological safety. So we talk a lot about safety in the workplace, and usually people think about like physical aspects, like falling off a ladder or something. But psychological safety means that people feel comfortable speaking up when they might disagree with somebody or that they think something different that they want to say or they're uncomfortable. And most people have, like managers, leaders, any kind of person who leads a team has to work at that and has to create that culture because people, if you have the hierarchy of like, this is my boss or, I'm working for this person, you might be afraid to say something because it might hurt your job. So there's like this caution around it. So you have to be able to create a culture where people are okay doing that. Like, it took me on my team a really long time to tell, like, my younger employees, like, it's okay for you to disagree with me and tell me I'm wrong, or like that you didn't like think I said was right, or for them, I could see it in their body. Like, it took energy, and now it's good. Like, they're comfortable with it, but it took a long time. And you have to create that if you're going to be able to, if you want the people to speak up, right? If they're uncomfortable or if something's wrong, you have to be comfortable saying that, like, I feel like there's some power dynamics here that are going off. So it's the safety feeling that you can be yourself, say what you think, even if it goes against what other people are thinking, and question, those in authority. And that's a lot of work.
It is. And when you create, like you said, intentionally create an environment where that can be done, and you have someone there that their literal job is to do that, then it allows people to expand into their full space of creativity from my perspective, because they have both that physical and psychological safety at the forefront. So they can really, it's like often I know people are like, we just want to be in the moment and see what happens, and it be so choreographed, you're going to take the energy out of it. But what really happens is like, oh, I know that if I play in this way, that you're never going to go past this point with me. You can be in it and embody it in a way that you couldn't if you're like, ooh, if I do this, you might think that this is this, and then you might do this. So, and you can turn off, especially for women, we tend to have this, out of safety, there's always a story in your head. You're assessing the room constantly and your environment constantly for safety. And for someone who doesn't embody a female body, presenting body, they don't necessarily know that and understand that there's this thing that can distract you from being fully present because you want to be alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for those who are unfamiliar with what the actual role of intimacy coordinating is, can you share a little bit about what you do and what that looks like day to day when you're on set?
Intimacy coordinating, we're another department head. What we do is we work with the crew and the actors. I always want to emphasize that we are an advocate both for actors and crew. We're often in media really focus on how the actor's experience of something is. But I'm here to be an advocate for creating that consent-forward set, a creative collaborator for any scenes that have simulated sex, nudity, or heightened levels of intimacy and vulnerability. And that can look different set to set. You might be there to help like a difficult scene with a minor, right? And like make sure that moves forward as quickly as possible. I may be involved in simulating a scene of sex, whether it's consensual or non-consensual. What we do is we start during the pre-production process with the creative team, break down what the needs are, what scenes might need an intimacy coordinator, what might not. We chat with actors to get a sense of their boundaries. I chat with relevant crew heads about what they may need or what their expectations are for the scene. And then on the day, we're there to either to check in with the actors again, if a director needs to help them with choreo, and ultimately serve that larger creative vision that's for the whole project. So I really love when I am able to be in there as early as possible because we can really facilitate these scenes and make them a lot easier. Like, we're very similar to stunt coordinators.
What I'm hearing is being in on the beginning of the process, like or for those who, so say an independent filmmaker is starting out making their first film, and they're like, yes, I want to do this, and I feel this is, I want to make sure that I have all the people in place to make this the most consent-forward space and to get the best work out of folks. How early in the process should they be bringing you in?
Hire me during pre-production. At the same time, up to you whether or not it's before casting. But the sooner we can chat with the director and get a sense of what they are looking for out of this scene, the better. Because during pre-production, during prep, I'll be chatting and having all those chats. So then on the day, we go as smoothly and as efficiently as possible. So everyone knows in film, we hurry up and wait. And I will not be part of the reason why we are waiting.
Come on, say it. And even I love what you said, if we can bring you in beforehand, even before casting happens, because if they can afford it and they, have the space to have me, like to come in and help you with your breakdowns, because how you're writing those breakdowns is going to start, to your point, Nikki, with how you create the culture. And so for those who aren't familiar with what a breakdown is, that's when you're writing, when the casting notice and what you're looking for in each character, there's a way in which you can write these breakdowns that are consent forward, that are equitable, that are really addressing things that you might overlook. Intimacy coordinators can come in and help you with that as well. So I think that's a place that people often overlook. That like it starts at the beginning of communication with anybody you're bringing into the process.
I've been involved in some casting processes for the same thing, helping them write the breakdown, talking to potential actors who had been given an offer and just wanted a little more clarity on what was happening in these scenes before they accepted. And this is where we go back to informed consent, right? You cannot consent to things when you don't know what is happening.
Yes.
And I feel like with a lot of younger indie filmmakers, they're really excited about intimacy. Many of them are. They're really excited to bring someone in the team. So I'm very encouraged by that.
Sounds like there's a lot of relationship building, too, that has to happen. Like, you can't have that level of trust unless you build those relationships. So the further you wait to bring that person in, the harder it's going to be.
Yeah. And from your perspective, Nikki, what are the best ways to really, I always say we move at the speed of trust, right? So what are the ways that filmmakers that are coming in, wanting to make sure they're creating a space of trust and care, what are some simple ways that they can start thinking about that from the very beginning of building anything that they're creating?
Yeah, it's super simple. Get to know the people. Because nobody trusts a stranger, right? Like, you're not going to, like, have this emotional strength, like, trust with somebody, like, you just met. It takes time. So you actually have to just, like, get to know the person. And sometimes people feel that's, like, fluffy or it's not part of their job or, like, you know, they want a personal divide between like work and who that person is outside. And that is okay. But to some extent, there needs to be like an emotional depth to that relationship. Otherwise, the trust is just a word that people say. And it doesn't actually exist. I mean, if you can think back to any relationship that you've been in, like, it takes a while to build that trust.
Right. And so when you're thinking about building that trust and creating a space that has, you know, consensual spaces and trauma-informed spaces, how do you recommend that be created for filmmakers and anyone who, again, is creating something in organizational space?
Yeah, so I think part of it is, I heard you mention it earlier, like, this is a team thing, right? Like, there's a lot of people working together, and there's been a lot of research on teams, like how do teams work effectively? And the most effective way is to train them together. So they go through these learning things together. So if you think about, you know, we're here in Chicago, so if you think about like the Chicago Bulls, you know, Rodman, Pippen, Jordan, imagine if each one of those people had a different coach and they were like learning the game, you know, and not together, learning together, right? That always creates bonds too. And then it enhances performance because you're all kind of on the same page and moving the same way instead of like, oh, I think you're supposed to do this and I'm supposed to do this, but I don't really know because we never practice this together. So a lot of it is like make that space for the teams, like make everyone feel like they're part of it, and that responsibility and accountability comes with being part of that team.
That's so good. So what I'm hearing, like for us, the language we would use, like your different department heads and your different departments coming together to work together, but at minimum, department heads. So, I mean, from your perspective, with that in mind, like what would you say would be the ideal way that we're building this out from the very beginning to start to create that training environment, if you will, to create that synergy and trust?
I think it's about introducing, sometimes in film we can end up very siloed in our different departments.
Sometimes always.
Right. And sometimes it's a union thing that we are literally siloed because we have certain roles. I always like to tell people at the start of a production, whenever I'm working with them, that you matter more to me than this show or this production. And I don't expect them to believe me, especially if they've never worked with me before. But I will be showing that to them.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I think happy people make better work.
They do. There's a lot of research behind that,
Right.
actually. If their people are not happy, they're going to get disengaged, unsatisfied, and start to look elsewhere and quit.
Yeah, and I think we should be encouraging people to be at their best. And if they're unhappy, they will not be at their best.
You cannot perform at your highest level if you're not happy and excited about the work.
So I think like when I come in, it's often talking with the production team, right? The producers often are a big part of setting culture. ADs are a big part of setting culture. So being in contact with those people and talking to them about their expectations, their experiences with intimacy coordinators, whether positive or negative, to get a sense of what their work styles are. I'm not here to necessarily change everyone's work style to mine, right? Like I want people to work in the way that makes them the most comfortable and also facilitates and supports the others around them. And the work we do, and I think there's a lot of different departments making efforts to continue to improve the film set dynamic and make more positive workplaces. That's the work of many little revolutions. It takes time. A lot of these small changes may not be felt immediately on this set, but man, if that PA goes on to the next set and knows that they don't have to accept a certain piece of behavior, if that actor goes on and they feel more empowered next time, that's a win, right? Even if we had to fight a little bit on this one. So I'm never, especially because we're a gig-based environment, it can be a little different in terms you have teams and you leave them so quickly. And you might see some of those people again and you might be able to pick that team environment back up. Mm-hmm. But you'll have new players and new things. It's like, someone did a trade in the middle of the season. Literally. And things are complicated. High maps.
Oh my God. It's literally that. That is so good. And to your point, I think where it comes in the way of being, Nikki, what you're saying, and then where that works and how it shows up in our industry is the leave behind. And when you go to the next set, there's a different way of being. And if we can start showing people that now as they're being trained up, also showing the people that are up here that have been doing it this way, like, no, we're going to show you there's a different way of being. And sometimes it's just like, just little morsels that you're peppering in here and there. But over time, like you said, there's small revolutions that end up leading to something really, really incredible. So some of the things we're talking about, like we're talking about the bulls, we're talking about, like coming in at the beginning of a process and budgets. And I can hear you indie filmmakers getting so scared, like I'll never be able to afford an intimacy coordinator. So, Aimy, from your perspective, share for the indie filmmaker who just thinks that they can't afford you, what does that look like to create a budget where they can bring in an intimacy coordinator for the places that they really need them?
That is a great question. So for a SAG project, typically most intimacy coordinators will work at the same budget level as a stunt coordinator for that same. That's usually our base rate. However, I think a lot of us recognize that indie film is difficult. So many of us, not all of us, do work on scale. I do work on scale for indie film. And my ask usually is like, if all department heads are making the same amount of money and it's a favored nation situation, that's great. I will accept that. But you have to recognize that intimacy coordinators are department heads. We are a one person, sometimes multiple people, but often one person department, and we should be compensated appropriately. There are ways where you have to think of how much prep we have to do and that's an ongoing conversation, I think, between you, your producer, and your intimacy coordinator. But many of us are flexible because we do want other people to have these tools. We also want to pay our bills.
That part.
Can I add on that?
Please do.
I imagine that it's actually probably connected to the bottom line too, like making money. If you have a film that doesn't feel right and you watch it and you're like, oh, that was fake, it doesn't have the same emotion from the audience, right? So like if you do have something and you're doing it well, I mean, it's just like with organizations, like the higher performance, the higher, like you're going to, like more money you're going to make. So you might be paid for it, right? Like they got the extra revenue from, or however you guys like your language, but basically like you can help them make more money because you're helping the film.
I mean, the better the film is, the more chance that it's going to get picked up, Right. Can I give you my answer to that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I was at some film brunch conference thingy, and someone in the audience had asked this very question, and then the person up on the panel was actually a union person, answered the question. They're just like, well, I don't really, how do we budget for that? And they're like, I don't really, and the union person was like, yeah, I'm not really sure how you would, what they are running these days. And I was just like, I stood up. And I was just like, you budget for it the same way you do for food. Would you like people to eat on your set? And will they come back and work for you if you don't feed them? You budget for it the same way you do for hair and makeup. How would you like that wig to look? Would you like it to be on their head and look nice or not? And if the wig is an important part of this project, do we need to have the money for said wig? Whatever's important to you, you will find the money for. That's what I say. So yes, it may not be, again, like you said, a favored nation thing. Like, okay, I'm not going to come in here making 10 cents while everybody's making 10,000. If we're all going to, we're all doing this out of the love of the arts, we can have a conversation. Otherwise, just budget for it and see what it looks like to budget for it, and then ask the questions. Because if it was something else, you wouldn't let it get in the way of you getting the film made, because you wanted to get it done.
And write scripts you can pay for.
Say it again. Say it again.
See, if you can't afford it, don't write it.
Come on. That's it.
And I'm going to borrow a phrase from a friend of mine who is also an intimacy coordinator. We are cheaper than a lawsuit.
Oh, come on.
I was just thinking something along those lines. I'm the business person, so I'm thinking like, what is this happening? If you were saying like little things build up and it's going to, eventually change things when there's more of you all in these positions. It's also going to change the attractiveness of whether or not actors want to work with certain people.
Exactly.
Like, it's going to be a competitive advantage.
And when you think about it, just from the bottom line perspective, let's just for a moment, we'll take the art out of it. The art's going to be there anyway, but we'll take it out. When you think about it, Nikki, from a bottom line perspective, and you're creating spaces that are cheaper than a lawsuit, statistically, what do you see when things are created from a behavioral science point of view that are equitable and safe? What do you see in the difference between those performances of businesses?
Oh, diversity and equity are directly linked to performance. So if you think about a team and it's diverse, the purpose of a team is to get something more than you would get from an individual. So we have a lot of people like contributing ideas and ways of thinking and different perspectives. Your end product ends up so much better. Think back to like when Uber and WeWork and all those companies were kind of like booming up. They were not thinking about culture and safety in the workplace. And they all had giant lawsuits and ruin their reputation, and no one wants to work for it. And, I'm thinking there was also a gaming company, too, that had huge sexual harassment problems, and they were trying to get acquired by, like, a very prominent company. And the company found out that they had all these sexual harassment issues, and they were like, yeah, we're not going to acquire you, it is directly linked to that. Like, you can maybe get away with it for a little bit, but it's going to come back. And then the people that do intentionally do it, they're longer, like, running. And I actually did a research study on this that looked at, like, culture. And, like, if you intentionally build the culture in, you're more likely to survive, like, even over 100 years. Like, it can predict. So it's not only does it help you, like, create better products, but it makes you more sustainable and, like, adaptable, and like, you're going to grow more likely than somebody who doesn't do those things.
If we can't get you to care about the people, I hope that you do. But if the money gets you going, what I'm hearing, Nikki, is that you'll make more if you put culture first.
Yeah.
Just saying, y'all.
I always think it's like a win-win. It's not the money, it's not the people. Like, well, for me, it's a psychologist, so it's always people first. But like, if you treat your people well, you're gonna make more money. So they kind of go hand in hand.
It's just so simple. I just see it so simple, and I think it's so silly when people don't see it.
It's so basic to create a culture of care.
Oh,
It is so basic.
so basic. It's foundational.
And if you do it in the beginning, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
Like going in and trying to change a culture or like inspire a different culture is expensive and takes years versus like maybe like a couple meetings in the beginning.
Say it. And we know that firsthand on set. Once the train goes off the track, baby, trying to get that back on. And if you can just build a culture at the beginning intentionally, it changes the outcomes and the experience and the people that you meet and then work with time and time again. It just makes it so beautiful and expansive. First of all, just thank y'all for that because, I just love it when people agree with me, especially when it comes to, caring for other humans. I mean, what is one piece of advice that you would give to filmmakers that want to create consent-forward spaces and a culture of care?
It starts with you. You can be kind. You can ask people questions. You can give your own boundaries. You can model that yourself. You don't actually need me there to do that. I am happy to help facilitate that, but cultures of care are built by individuals aligning to the same values. So it starts with you.
Actually, if it's the leader that's doing it and they don't model those behaviors, people emulate them. So they actually have to be doing those, like the first ones, because people are going to look to them to say, what's okay, what's not okay, like how do I behave? So yeah, I love that answer.
And for those who are coming into an environment that maybe doesn't model that space of care, how can the people that are coming into that space advocate for themselves? And this might be more of a question for you, Nikki, because if people are coming into an environment that isn't modeling that construct of care and safety, what are the ways that they can advocate for themselves? Because this is a gig environment for us, we're often coming into spaces where it's not like, I'm just going to go grab another one. It's like, well, this is here right now and I need it and I haven't worked in 6 months, but I'm also not feeling safe and cared for. What can I do? And also people will be talking because work begets work, right? So what are simple care practices that people can keep in their pocket in these kind of environments?
Something that happens a lot in organizations are the creation of employee resource groups, ERGs. And the reason for that is because then you're not alone. There's other people, and it feels like you don't have to speak out. So if there are a few other people that are experiencing the same thing, get them together, create that community. But otherwise, I think it's a value-based thing too, right? Like what are you willing to put up with and what are you willing to not put up with? And what are the non-negotiables? And I always advocate for effective communication, like go directly to the person you need to and speak to them. But that might not always be feasible given like power dynamics or the way things are going. But that's the reason why I was like, I keep bringing up the bottom line in the business because these aren't just like nice to have things. Like these are things that need to be happening if you want to like actually compete in this industry. And it's just going to, not work out for them if they don't start it right away, because then this is what happened with startups, right? They see their founders modeling like bad behaviors, that then they model the bad behavior, and it just goes on and on and on. And then it creates lawsuits and, it traumatizes people too. Like these are real people working. Like, do you want to be like the one that caused the trauma in their life and that like lasts for like years, maybe even decades? That's disturbing to me. When like you're in those kind of situations as an intimacy coordinator, sex can be very like traumatizing if it doesn't feel safe, or they feel like things are going wrong or not, like they're being violated or whatnot. Like, just think about it as a person. Like, treat them like people.
Right. And when you're simulating something like that, it's not just the people that are actually in the scene that are involved, it's everybody that is around them watching this thing being simulated, right? So that care and safety has to take place for everyone, in that consent forward space. For us, we don't, like in this industry, we don't typically have the luxury of creating an ERG. But what I thought about, I was like, what does an ERG look like on set? And I was like, I feel like it's a few people from different departments getting together and be like, this, yeah.
That's what I was
in the group chat.
It's in the group chat, and then finally you stomp to the producer that will actually listen to you and be like, mirror them or something has to be done. Enough people have to complain. And I have seen it time and time again where enough people have to complain about that person. But it is like our little ERG that we create.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about it.
It doesn't have to be formal. It's literally like just a group of people that have similar characteristics or needs, and they want the same thing, and they got to fight for it together.
I think it's also, yes, identify your allies and know where they also are in the power dynamic. Because that information can teach you a lot, because maybe someone brings something up and you're really bothered about it, but they are actually better positioned to effectively communicate this to whoever can solve the problem. I joke once that I had a colleague and we look very different. We are different genders, and there would be problems that we were co-department heads on a project, and there were things that he would go and handle with his tall white male body, and there were things I would go and handle because you have to know the body you're in and how people will react to that. I don't think we should ignore those things. Those are realities on set, too. So know the game.
So this is a call to action for everyone listening. It's your time to really educate yourself on how you show up first. I really love what you said about it starts with you. So for folks that are like, I can't hire this or I don't have that, it starts with you. And how are you showing up? I always say the fish rots from the head. So, and I think that's actually science. So, so that being said, it all is going to start with whoever's in charge and who's at the helm of creation, and how you're educating yourself on how to create better environments, to be a better environment in and of yourself, and then to slowly and carefully hire the people that are aligned with your values and the thing that you're looking to create.
I love the idea of being informed and learning and understanding, because if they don't, sometimes they don't even know something's wrong, they can be in an environment, like I see that all the time, like, why are you letting your manager treat you like this? They're like, oh, I just think it's, that's the normal way, that's how it's done. It's like, no, it can be better. It can be so much better.
It can be so much better.
And this is also all practice, right? You don't have to be good at it right away. You don't have to be good at it 100% of the time. You just have to keep doing it until practice becomes instinct.
That's it.
Yeah. And then then it's embedded in the culture, and you don't think about it, and you're not asking people, they're just doing it.
Yes.
I always say poco a poco, paso a paso, little by little, step by step. Yeah. So what are y'all loving? What are you leaving? And what are you longing for in this season or today?
As an organizational psychologist, we typically work with large firms. And I started a company to work with the small ones that get ignored because they don't have the funding for like $1 million contract with Deloitte or something like that. And just being able to work with people that like, they have ideas and they're passionate is just a game changer, like on a day-to-day basis. What I'm leaving, and I'm quite sad about it, is Washington, D.C. So I just moved here, like I'm in a transition period, but that was home for me. What I'm longing for is change, and that's what I'm working towards. And that's part of the reason why I started working with entrepreneurs, is because 97 to 98% of all of the venture capital goes to white men, and that I'm not okay with that. And so I'm longing for like something to change, some things to crack, and working in a lot of different ways to really make that happen.
I'm longing for that as well. Come on. How about you, Aimy?
I am loving the creative collaborators I have in my life. I feel very blessed and grateful for the people who choose to work with me, who choose to spend time with me, who give me their brains and their hearts and their minds. I am very lucky. And y'all know who you are. I can't name all of you. I am leaving, I am trying to leave. I do not always successfully leave this imposter syndrome. I think it's part of talking about this with my therapist, but I think it plays such a huge factor, and very much so in folks who are AFAB, just dealing with like a lot of the push. What does it mean to shout myself out in like spaces? Because I think there is a difference between just projecting competence, which I feel I do well, but also like really hustling, and that I think the disconnect there can sometimes lie in my own imposter syndrome. So that is the thing I'm working on leaving. She occasionally pops back up. She's a little rude. And then I would say I'm longing for, we are in turbulent times, my friends. I am longing for change. I am longing for people to remind themselves that, hey, we're a bunch of humans. And it's really, again, not that hard for us to commit to caring about one another. And I am longing for the future I want to give young people to be here now.
Love that. Can I say something about the imposter syndrome? I think we all have it, right? Like, it's because we're in positions where we're growing, and growth is uncomfortable. And so if you kind of switch your mindset a little bit, that might help. Like, it's not imposter syndrome. It's just that I'm growing. I'm doing things I haven't done before. And so it's kind of like get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's not a solution, but definitely something I think about myself, because I feel like I'm constantly having imposter syndrome, moving from like role to role, or, and I'm like, when does it ever go away? Like,
I don't think it does.
That's why I think the mindset change is like, it's just there, be comfortable with it and be excited about it, because that means you're growing. If you do feel like you're, in control and like, you know how to do everything, then like, maybe it's time for a change because you're not growing anymore as a person.
Well, when we spill tea in just a moment, I'll tell you about what my tutor, when I was going to conservatory in London, said what he called the imposter syndrome. We got cuss on that section, so that'll be in just a little bit. So, last question, high level question here, like crafty go-to snack.
Okay, I'm going to give you one sweet and savory because I'm a Libra and I cannot make choices. Yes. Okay, sweet. A fruit snack. I only eat fruit snacks on set. I promise I am an adult. And a savory, I'm going to go with like a mix of potato chips, but it's got to be a mix because, again, I cannot make choices.
What does a mix look like? I need more information.
But I want something that's like vinegary, like vinegar, and then like a spicy chip in there too, and then maybe adding a little lime on top, like a little lime sauce.
Come on, see, it's the culture. Come on,
you gotta make something.
Yep. So you're not usually on set, so I want to know, when you go into these big organizations that have these dumb kitchens with all the like little snacky doos, what are you grabbing and putting one in your purse for the road?
An apple or banana, because usually the rest of the stuff is disgusting.
Okay, we will take it. Come on, healthy apple and banana.
Like the old school crunch granola bars that have like no flavor. Like, there's a lot of stuff, and I'm like, do people still eat those things?
Oh, corporate America, we're gonna do better.
I'm not. I spend a lot of time in the academic space too, so I'm not lucky enough to have food around.
No snacky doos for you. Well, apple and banana, we'll take it. Well, thank you so much for contributing your time, your talent. You are nothing but treasures. So we're just lucky to have you here. Appreciate you sharing your thoughts on intimacy coordinating, behavioral psychology, the importance of creating safety and consent-forward spaces, and that it really starts with you. Oh, come on, dropping gems. We'll see you next time. This is Real Wisdom with NK. And if you're curious, have more questions, want to know how you can find out more about Midwest Film Festival, the podcast, and the incredible people that make it all happen, go to MidwestFilm.com. Make sure to become a member so that you can get access to Tea Time with me, sign up for our newsletter, and make sure you don't miss out on our monthly screenings. I know, you heard that right. The last Monday of every month, you can find us live at the Claudia Cassidy Theater, located in the heart of Chicago at the Chicago Cultural Center. So we'll see you next time at Real Wisdom with NK and at a monthly screening. Now, if you want to hear us spill tea, stick around and head to MidwestFilm.com for our exclusive after-show content, Tea Time with NK, because the real talk happens after the episode. Let's be serious. So make sure you follow, subscribe, and share the show with someone who needs the scoop. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and as always, keep it real.